Well, and welcome to Cinemaphile. You're here for a wonderful reason, which is that we're going to be speaking with the director of a terrific, truly wonderful film called Promised Sky, and that would be Erige Sehiri. The film was nominated for the Uncertain Regards Award at the 2025 Cannes Film Festival. It is a, as they say, bittersweet celebration of endurance and sacrifice. It's one way to put it. It's the story of four women. One of them is a pastor and a former journalist. That would be Marie. Naney is a woman in Tunisia, under the radar, if you will, looking to obtain residency status and looking for a better life. Jolie is in Tunisia on a student visa, trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life. And Kenza, an orphaned child who's the only survivor of a shipwreck carrying refugees into Tunisia. Just beautifully done, intimate, wonderful acting, really fleshes out this immigrant experience in a way that I haven't seen in very many films. This is just a great example of that. With that, I want to welcome to the program the director of Promised Sky, Erige Sehiri. Erige, welcome to Cinemaphile. Let's talk a bit about the inspiration behind Promised Sky. How did this come to be?
Yes, I think it comes from the fact that we usually think that the whole African continent wants to cross to the Mediterranean Sea or go to Europe or to North America. But actually, in statistic, 80% of that migration is migrating within Africa in another African country. And I found it really, really interesting. Also, we don't really usually talk about woman migration. Most of the time is male, even though it's 50% is woman. And of course, also let's say the situation, not just in Tunisia, but in general, in the fact that we always kind of have the tendency to forget that we'll build societies also with migration. And I was interested to see that a Tunisian country, like a North African country who's used to migrate in itself, have to welcome this time others. And you are in a Muslim country and they are welcoming Christians. And the fact that political speeches always talk about the replacement of the Christian DNA by the Muslim DNA, I found it interesting that this time it's the Muslim DNA that will be replaced by the Christian DNA, and I find it absurd. So that was kind of the base of the idea of the film.
Well, I think the way this film plays out in your response in telling the story is how much of this is predicated on prejudice and racism and just there's so much being played out in the film in terms of these wonderful characters, these wonderful people that we get to know whose main concern is to just get through the day, try to figure out a way forward to have a life for themselves. By humanizing them, you give so much of the lie to what is usually said about people migrating. Now, Tunisia is a former French colony. Do I have that correct? Tunisia was
Yes,
that
it
French?
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, it is.
is that a part of the telling the story? Is this sort of just an element, or was there a point in wanting to focus on
It's
Tunisia?
just an element because most people speak Arabic and French. So you have a lot of sub-Saharan who speaks French who migrate to Tunisia because it's easier as they are sharing the same French the colonial language, and so it's part of it. But other than that, I was more thinking of what it is to be a Black woman in a North African country, which is part of Africa, but because most of the people are whiter, or
Yeah.
so it feels like we're always more Black or more white than the other. It has also this aspect that North African are not as Black. They're not Black. They are kind of brown, let's say. So racism also exists in between the different nuances of colors, and this is an aspect we don't usually talk about because it's kind of a bit of taboo to say that we as North African we can be racist against another African sub-Saharan because they are Black,
Mhm.
as if we were a European or so.
Yeah.
This is also something that we don't talk about. And I found it interesting to put that on the table.
You are Tunisian by birth, is that correct?
No, I'm French by birth.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Ah,
thought
but no, no, but we are. I'm Tunisian by birth at the same time because as my parents are Tunisian, so yes, we can say I'm both. I'm
you
both.
are both. Okay. And the heart and soul of the film are the performances, these three characters that we get to know. Naney, Jolie, and Kenza, and others who are, and Marie, pardon me, who really embody the decency of these people, the struggle that they go through every day, and also in the sort of hanging over this story is this crackdown that's happening in Tunisia regarding people who are there, quote unquote, illegally. So there's all of these different tensions, but I just thought that the characters are just beautifully drawn. And these performances, I love the performances in the film by all of the actors. Let's talk a little bit about casting this film because just great performances all around. I just thoroughly, yes. So let's talk about the performances here.
Yes, it's something I really love. I did a casting of my film for Under the Fig Trees, my previous film, and I really want to do the same on this one to really cast myself without a casting director, all the characters of the film, because I like when you jump into a film, you don't have the background of the characters, and you're not gonna know the whole story about the. I'm not gonna be didactic. I'm not gonna present you all the details, but it's more of being of living with them the moment, and through that getting to know the characters. And but the audition was really very different from one to another. Mary is a very famous French actress, and I just contacted her through an email. Jolie, played by Laetitia Key, I found her on Instagram. She was doing sculpture with her hair, and I wanted to meet her, so I fly to Abidjan to meet her, and I fell in love with her. She auditioned and asked her to improvise a scene, and she was just terrific. And then Kenza is a little child. I found her in a church, an evangelical church, with her mother. As I was going every Sunday to, watch and see how it goes. And Naney, who's playing her own role, I met her while she was going to cross illegally the Mediterranean Sea. She was with friends, and I auditioned. And I remember at that time, she told me that later, that she thought that I might call the police. She didn't even trust me. She didn't even trust that it was a real auditioning moment. She thought maybe I was working with the police and I was just bringing migrants to, you know, being arrested. And I was like, wow, wow, yeah, I will never imagine doing this type of auditioning in my life. This is how the world is going through now. Like, this is really scary. And yeah, so this is how. And then Fouad, the friend of Nani,
Yes.
he's a friend of my. Oh, my God, I was desperate to find his character, and I can tell you, I found him a day before we start shooting. I auditioned so many, it didn't work out. And then I was desperate. I called a friend and I say, I need someone to play that role. He needs to be this way, this way, this way. And I can't find that. And she said, I think my cousin is a bit like this. But be careful because he's the type of guy who sleep the day and leaves the night. Are you okay with that? Can you take the risk? And I say, yes. I brought him in my house and he met Nani because Nani is one of the first I've auditioned, I've selected, let's say, and she helped me to choose her friend in the film. And she said, and I remember the first time he came, just really day before the shooting, she was here and they kind of argue on something. And I was looking at them. I said, oh my God, if they don't know each other and they are able to fight already, that's the perfect match.
Well, he is
And
terrific. He really
yes.
is. You can absolutely see them together. Just what you described. And he's calm and yet he's willing to mix it up with her. It's a great dynamic. But in terms of Nani's character, Deborah Lobe Nane,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
she I thought of all they're all great performances. In
Yes.
no way, shape, or form, I'm just trying to like pick your favorite child here, but her performance really grabbed me because there is a sense of desperation in it. There's a
Yes.
sense of her character's desperation. And you're telling me that this is not far from her own life. And boy, was she fantastic in this performance. She really was.
Yeah, she is. I mean, we spent 1 year together. She's the one I spent the most time with before shooting. As the other characters were actors, most of them, they have to come just for preparation. They were busy and so on. But with her was different. With her, we spent a year together, going out, going dancing, going having dinner together, and just trusting each other, laughing with each other. And she trusted me, slowly, slowly, and we became good friends. And really, she was so generous and so at the same time so vulnerable and so strong at the same time, so very complex. And she has talent, she has a natural talent, and she wants to have fun, she wants to play. And she was able to improvise, but also to understand exactly what I needed from that scene. So she was intuitive, very intuitive, very smart in that sense. And she has also this energy of the one who will take any risk
Yeah.
to a better life.
Yeah. Well,
She had nothing to lose. Yes.
no, I'm sorry. There's a scene where she and Food are talking about that. I believe it's her and him, and just talking about looking out to the ocean and
Yes.
talking about that this faraway land, this opportunity that's just
Yes.
beyond their reach. And it's a beautiful scene. And again, her performance, just as you described, there's an energy to it. And there's a few scenes with her mixing it up with other people. She's trying to sell things and to get through her life. And boy, I felt her. I felt all of them. Yeah, and also you were talking about Marie Isamaga. What a quiet, grounding presence she is in the film. She's dealing with a lot of different things coming at her from all different directions, and she just has this bearing. And when there's a smaller I mean, there's a smaller role here of Noah, who the two
Yes.
of them together is. I just loved watching the two of them bounce off of one another in the film too. I could go on and on about these performances because they're all just so wonderfully fleshed out. But anything you want to add? And Kenza, oh my God, she is
Yeah.
just, she's so natural. I mean, she's a kid. She's just being
Yeah,
a
she was
kid.
only 4 years old when we shot the film. Very young, very, very baby, like very. And she gave me a lesson of life because if you write a character of a child who went through so much, you
Yeah,
would probably write a child who is a bit sad, who do not, who has nightmares during the evenings, who is really melancholic, but because Kenza in real life went through a lot, with her mother, and this I know, but still has this. It's like Naney as a child, she has this, and she's kind of breaking stereotypes about trauma. Trauma can be
yeah,
there, but you don't see it. You don't see it right away. You see it, example in the film when she's sleeping. This is where you understand how hard it is for her, how how she doesn't understand the word at all, and how hard it is. But the rest of the time she's kind of a very funny, very smart, very dynamic. And this is also something specific to most of the, not all of them of course, but of Black girls, I'll say, or African girls that went through so much. They've been from family to family, they traveled, they did, they had different life, even though she's only 4 years old. So she's giving us a lesson of vitality, of energy, that is was really inspiring to me. And I was really attentive to that when I wrote her character.
well, there's one scene with her that, with the beginning, where she's describing what happened in the boat.
Yes,
Was that scripted or is that something that,
it's really a mix of what I said to the other characters, Nanny and Mary, to ask her things I was whispering to her. while we were shooting the scene, and things she invented and things she went through. So it's really a scene. It's hard to tell you exactly what is real and what is not because it's really up mixed together.
The impact of the scene is through the eyes of a child, something seriously traumatic was happening. So it's the difference in tone. You're hearing something pretty terrible, but it's being told by a child who doesn't
Yes.
quite understand all the ramifications of what was happening.
Exactly.
That was the symbol of that scene. It's the contrast between that exactly what you just said. You know, the contrast between the face of Mary when she listened to her, which is very, and her telling the story in the bath, you know, in a very
Yeah,
childish way, as it is life. It is the life she knows, which is terrible. It's very tragic. And Naney is in between, you know, you can feel Naney. She's kind of, when she answers, she smiles. She's happy that she's answering. She understands her. Naney is understanding her, and Mary is more, concerned about the trauma of this little child. But for me, she's a very symbolic character because she's a child. She's an orphanage. Probably she will become a citizen of the state because, you know, as in any country, when you find a child and you don't know where the parents, they become the orphanage of the country. They become a citizen of the country. So, what does it mean for her to become that citizen of a country who doesn't want her
right.
present? This is something also very terrible and a real question I'm asking since now, you know, migration is happening everywhere and people are mixing, you know, and child or, you know, or being left behind, especially in this process. These things can happen also in, I guess, in the borders, Mexico and US or Africa and Europe, you know, in many borders.
Well, that's the bigger picture that
Yes,
that question is being asked because my opinion is that we are at the beginning of a mass migration of humanity, the likes of which we will have never experienced before, between
yes,
climate disasters. If we're not careful, we could see collapse of nation states pretty easily
yes.
in the coming years. So what do we do? How do we react? Right?
I agree with you. That's why I think the fact that it's a very intimate film, but it's also very political in that sense. I think politics is also asking questions on how are we going to live together beside the ideology of some politics.
Right,
For
right.
me, political films or politics is made for us to ask the questions of our living together, of the way we want to live together. You know, and it's also the base of philosophy to ask these questions about life and how are we connected to each other, and this is also the reason why this film, the way it was shot, is you don't feel that you're necessarily in Tunisia. It could be Tunisia, it could be another country, because what's happening there can happen anywhere right now, and it's happening. Um, and you know, as I said, the Muslim DNA is replaced by the Christian DNA. The Christian DNA is replaced by the Muslim DNA. It doesn't mean anything anymore, I think, because as you said, now the situation, like people are gonna migrate and cross and do whatever they can to a better life. But at the end, we have a lot of things to learn from their experience.
The story of humanity is the story of migration.
Yes,
You know, look at anyone's DNA.
exactly.
It's
That's
from
why I
all
think
over the world. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, no, that I think that's why I wanted to have this very spiritual sense also in the film, you know, like something like a story coming from a Bible with this child and this blind man and this church and this house of women. You know, it has this aspect of and a simple way to tell a story. Like there's no big spectacular narrative or spectacular things happening. It's just, you know, like a little story, very simple, like the beginning of human stories, I found.
It's almost more normal than not normal in a way. And also,
Yes.
you introduce that element when they're discussing the baby Jesus moving, take him to Egypt.
Egypt.
Yeah, the idea it's a biblical premise that we do. Yeah, We do migrate. I just thank you for bringing that into the conversation because it is the arching concept or story of
Yes.
the film. It arches over the entire all of the other stories. And gosh, and also this film was nominated for Uncertain Regards at the Cannes Film Festival last year.
Yes.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank
And
you. Thank you.
yeah,
It will be it will open in Film Forum in New York, so I can't wait to come and introduce the film to the audience.
by the way, folks, for listening to our conversation, Promise Sky is going to be opening at the Film Forum in New York on June 12th, so be looking for it. Fantastic venue, wonderful opportunity to see this, and I'm guessing you'll be there for some Q&As for that screening. Erige Sehiri, thank you so very much for your time today. Thank you for your work here with Promise Sky. Again, the film will be screening at the Film Forum on June 12th in New York City, so be looking for it there, as well as seek it out. It's being released through Film Forum. Erige Sehiri, thank you for Promise Sky, and I look forward to hopefully another conversation down the line. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much.